Fortnite junk rift disabled, and more coming up on today's episode of the latest in tech news. Hey Gadget here, you're just in time for the latest episode of the world's only 3-in-1 show on tech, gadgets, and gaming news. That's right, this is the latest in tech news. My name is Taylor Merrick, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now so that you don't miss out on the latest. We do this show daily around here, and we would hate to have you miss out. Did you know that we cover like 7 articles a day, not just a feature story? Oh yes, it's true. So we would hate to have you miss out. Speaking of our feature story today, we're going to be taking a look at the junk rift item was disabled across all game modes. And if you didn't know already, well, we'll update you on the latest. And if you did, well, you might have learned something that you didn't know about before. So we'll be getting into that. We'll also be taking a look at smart TV apps are convenient, but you really should be streaming with a device, followed by NASA's new moon landing supercomputer is more powerful and more eco-friendly, to which I say it only took them like long enough to upgrade the systems there. Man. Also, we'll be taking a look at Instagram's latest assault on Snapchat is a messaging app called Threads. We'll also be taking a look at over 1 million people watching World of Warcraft Classic on Twitch for some odd reason. I guarantee you there's some bleed over to YouTube and Facebook and Mixer. Guaranteed, because it's a classic for a reason. We'll also be taking a look at Destiny 2 losing some old activities, but that might be a good thing now that Bungie is officially on their own. Followed by our final article, Dying Light 2 shaping up to be an astonishing open-world action game. And you're probably like, where's this Dying Light 2 come from? Well, if you haven't been a fan of the show for very long or haven't been listening very long, you'll happen to know that I enjoy Dying Light very much, and I have been announcing as news has been made available to me about Dying Light 2. I'm very excited for this game to come out, so I'm looking forward to it. So we'll be digging into all the latest, but before we can, let's take a look at today in tech history. Alright, today is August 26th, 2019. On this day in history, in 1938, radio station WQXR in New York City broadcasts a program using a tape recorder for the first time. The tape recorder used was the Philips Miller recording system, also known as Miller tape, invented by James Arthur Miller. And thank goodness, because Miller tape would have gotten confusing a lot longer had it been labeled that. A good thing it just went to tape recorder. Also, on this day in history, in 1984, Miss Manners confronts a new realm of etiquette in her August 26th column as she responded to a reader's concern about typing personal correspondence on a personal computer. You think this is a joke? This is 1984. The concerned individual said that using the computer was more convenient, but that they were worried about the poor quality of her dot matrix printer and about copying parts of one letter onto another. Miss Manners replied that computers, like typewriters, generally are inappropriate for personal correspondence. In the event a word processor is used, she warned, the recipient may confuse the letter for a sweepstakes entry. And she noted, if any one of your friends ever sees that your letter to another contains identical ingredients, you will have no further correspondence problems. Good thing we moved on from that, otherwise I would have been, I don't even know anymore. Let's head on over to today's feature story. Alright, hopping right in. Before we do, for those of you interested, yes, there are links to all of the articles covered in today's show. Head on over to TechNewsGadget.net for the latest. Hopping right on in, this article from Dexerto says that the junk rift item was first released in patch 10.10, and like the Brute mech, was quickly derided by competitive players who argued that it, quote, fundamentally compromised the game. Here's how it works. When it is thrown, a rift opens up over your enemy, dropping a random object on them. On August 25th, Epic announced that it would be disabling the item across all game modes because of an issue. Now, seemingly out of the blue, the official Fortnite Twitter account updated players and said it would be removing the Junk Rift item from all modes due to an issue in-game. And here's the tweet on the screen for you to peruse at your leisure. Junk Rift had already been disabled in Arena playlists on August 22nd due to audio issues, and the announcement was quickly met with praise from pro Fortnite players such as Team Liquid's Ryan Chaplow, who praised the item's removal. And he tweeted out, +1 for removing Junk Rift from Arena, -1 for keeping the terrible vehicle in the game. He tweeted before realizing it was only temporary. Yeah, I mean, it would make sense that it wasn't in Arena. I mean, don't confuse it a little bit too quickly. I mean, if anybody, if you want to take a I don't know, a piece of history, as it were, all you really have to do is look at what League of Legends was doing in terms of competitive and regular mode. And if they introduced something that apparently the competitive players got a little bit too confused about, they went, oh, great, we broke the meta. Oh, shoot, what do we do? So that's kind of what happened there. So just take a page from what Riot Games was doing Fortnite, if ever you, or Epic Games, if ever you need it. So Season 10 of Fortnite so far has proven to be the most controversial due to the backlash received from players and a competitive scene over the Brute, Mech, and Junk Rift item. So apparently Booga, who was the Fortnite World Cup winner, took to Twitter on August 20th to urge Epic to remove the Junk Rift, as he and other pro players were not a fan of the item. Those who hate the Junk Rift will need to get in as much playtime as they can while it's disabled, as it seems the controversial item will be making its way back as soon as they fix the issues with it. And here's what I'm thinking. The article's done. Here's my thoughts. They're probably having a problem syncing up the audio, trying to make sure it's not too overpowered, trying to nail down exactly what the issues are with it. So they are listening to what's going on, but I'm thinking, being that it was a temporary issue and bug, my thoughts are, as soon as the servers go down for the next patch and the update to come this coming Tuesday, which is tonight to tomorrow morning, for when this podcast goes immediately live, and for those of you who listen in the future, while you probably have no clue what we're talking about, you're like, yeah, we're on patch like 74 now. Anyways, it's probably going to be reintroduced and re-enabled right after the patch gets patched. So expect it either to debut again then, with now out some fixes, maybe some nerfs, or maybe like a day or two after that. It shouldn't take them very long. They have people working on it, so they know what is going on. But be that as it may, what do you guys think? If you did have a chance to use the Junk Rift item, what did you think? Did you like it, not like it? Let me know down below in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube, or via Twitter. We are at TechNewsGadget. We'd love to hear your thoughts. My thoughts are, I never got to use it, so I really don't know exactly what the controversy is. I didn't really necessarily see a problem with it. Have I played Fortnite recently? Yes. I've played it recently enough to actually know what the mech is. I've blown up people in the mech. I've shot people out of the mech. I've jumped into the mech. I've stomped people on the ground with the mech. I've bounced people up into the air and nailed them with rockets in the mech. I've actually hijacked a mech while somebody else was riding it and proceeding to take out his own players while his own team, because I played it in Team Rumble mode, it's actually kind of funny, while his own team got mad and started shooting the mech, which blew him up. So all in all, I think it's fine. Yes, I did play it after the nerfs were introduced. Seems to be fine. It seems a little bit more balanced now and not too OP. It seems like it's been tailored back a little bit, so I don't still have a problem with the mech. I could be the only one right now in the podcast world, though, saying that the mech is fine. Everybody else is like, mech sucks. Well, to keep things interesting, this is what companies do, especially game companies. They keep things interesting, to keep things lively, as they'll introduce new things, changing up things to see what does and doesn't work, and adjusting accordingly. That's just the way the business has been run for many a decade, and including the gaming industry. It's been going on for at least in gaming years, a millennia now, so it's nothing new. It's nothing new. So with that, I think that wraps up this article. I don't think there was anything else I needed to cover with it, but let's head on over to the next article we got lined up for you. All right, well, Smart TV apps are convenient, but you really should be streaming with a device. Now, this article comes to us from Mashable, and I'm actually kind of in agreement with the statement that was made here. You see, but problem is, if you've cut cable TV out of your life, you probably spent a ton of time on streaming services. TV manufacturers like Samsung and Vizio know this and have started packing their latest releases with built-in streaming apps. Convenient, but better in theory than in practice. Now, there are plenty of reasons not to rely on the all-too-convenient streaming apps that appear as soon as you turn on your new smart TV. You may not want to hear this after spending hundreds of dollars at least on a shiny new television display, but you should really shell out for a streaming device. Even if it fits something on a cheaper end, like a Roku stick or a Fire TV, you are more likely to have a better streaming experience than you would by relying on what's built into your TV, and I happen to agree with that. The number one thing you probably notice if you've ever relied on a smart TV's native streaming interface is just how slow it can be. And it's true. Trying to navigate from one menu item to the next is practically glacial. You can feel yourself aging as you try to figure out the best place to watch that Marvel movie you forgot to see in theaters. Anyways, the real problem is with smart TVs. The author here reviewed Vizio's newest M-Series Quantum set earlier this summer, and it really puts a damper on the experience. The menus were well laid out, and actually streaming things was fine, but getting there was a massive chore. Now, the hardware powering an Apple TV or a Roku are most likely going to be more powerful than the processor inside a smart TV. In addition, smart TVs can become outdated quickly. So can streaming devices, but they're cheaper to replace on a regular basis. Sadly, the smart TV version of Netflix, Hulu, or any streaming service app might not be the latest release with every new feature. Netflix, for instance, offers HDR support through Dolby Vision or HDR10 on a host of devices including PlayStation 4 Pro, Xbox One S and X or 10, Chromecast Ultra, and so on. You see, the feature is available on some smart TVs, but not all. The same goes for Hulu's Live TV feature, which is available on select models of smart TVs from various manufacturers, but is also available on pretty much any recent streaming device. So save yourself the hassle, I guess, and get yourself a streaming device. Not to mention that it's kind of creepy. One of the inevitable realities of connecting any device to the internet is that it's probably tracking what you're doing to sell things to you. The world is a cold, bitter, and cynical place like that. Smart TVs are no exception. Once you connect your shiny new TV to a network, there's a good chance it's tracking your activity so it knows which shows to advertise to you. Seriously, there are already enough ads on TV. We don't need them on the main menu. As the New York Times pointed out last year, the easiest way to turn tracking off might be to never turn it on in the first place. If you don't connect your TV to the internet, it's a lot harder for it to track what you're doing. And since streaming devices are also connected to the internet and made by companies that want to make a profit, there are privacy concerns with them too. The good news is that you can research the privacy protections that come with each individual streaming device. If you don't like what one device does with your data, use a different one. Or don't use any. Take your pick. Problem solved. Between the performance and privacy issues and delayed feature updates, it's hard to make a case for relying on smart TV's native apps. And, well, I guess that's the point to this entire article. Do you like smart TVs? Do you like the apps that come along with it? I have a Samsung, I gotta be honest. I love the TV. The TV's great. We actually used the built-in streaming apps for probably like half a year before we really started having some, I don't know, really weird bugs and glitches, and then the TV wouldn't turn on, and then we were wondering if it was like a warranty issue or something. Turns out, the moment we deviated away from using the smart TV apps feature on our Samsung TV and relied on the Apple TV hooked directly into the TV, problems went away. Problem solved. Never had any weird bugs, never had any weird glitches, except a couple connectivity issues between the TV and the Apple TV, but outside of that, nothing that can't be fixed with a turn off, turn on again solution. So yeah, that's my thoughts so far. Do you guys have a smart TV? Is this a feature you thought about? Well, not. Probably should. Moving right along, well, NASA created a new moon landing supercomputer that is more powerful and more eco-friendly. Now, NASA has officially opened its new supercomputer called Aitken at the Ames Research Center in Silicon Valley. It uses a modular design which requires less electricity and power than traditional facilities and will allow researchers to run complex simulations more quickly. Here you go. If you guys seriously love geeking out on this stuff, Aitken can run simulations at up to 3.69 petaflops of theoretical performance and has 221 terabytes of storage. It has 1,150 nodes and 46,080 cores and is powered by an HPE SGI 8600 system using second generation Intel Xeon processors with Mellanox InfiniBand for networking. If you ever wanted to drool over a computer, this would be the one. To keep all that computer power cool, the housing module makes use of the California environment using outdoor air, fan technology, and a circulating water system to remove heat from the computers. It is the first of a potential 16 modules which can be quickly constructed and which could be used for both computing and data storage. The concept is based on a prototype facility called Electra built in 2016, which housed a supercomputer inside a pair of environmentally friendly modules outside of the main NASA facility. The use of modules for power and cool saving essentially translated to 2 million kilowatt hours of power and over 3 million gallons of water in the 2018 fiscal year compared to if it had been installed in the main facility, according to NASA. The new supercomputer will be used by more than 1,500 scientists and engineers from across the country, including on projects like developing a more efficient quadcopter or simulating the inside of our sun. The job at the top of the priority list obviously will be running modeling and simulations of the entry, descent, and landing to the moon for the Artemis project. And for those of you who don't know, well, there's a link for you to learn more about Artemis. So yeah, exciting news. Finally, we actually get to see how it looks like. It's beefy. I mean, it's big. I mean, you look at it and you're like, it looks like one of those old computers that we saw in like the 50s and 60s and 70s. But this one is like, if you walked in and you looked at it, you'd be like, what am I going to do that's possibly going to run the amount of power that I don't even think I'm going to get close to like a drop of water in the bucket of the power for what I would want to do. I mean, I'd go there and be like, hey, can I play like Fortnite live? And he'd be like, well, why? And be like, well, because I wanted to see how powerful it was. And be like, dude, we could totally max it out. And it wouldn't even, it'd be like 0.5% of what the, no, not even like 0.0001% of the computer or less power. Petaflops. Are you kidding me? 3.69 petaflops. 221 terabytes of storage. You'd be set. Man, I just wanted to share this tidbit with you. Excuse me while I go, I guess, calm down. I mean, because this computer, if you want to talk about a high power performance gaming rig, this would totally be the one. But I guarantee you it would be outside your budget by like a couple $1 billion. All right, moving right along. Instagram's latest assault on Snapchat is a messaging app called Threads. And for those of you wondering, why does there have to be more competition? Well, because Facebook's jealous. You see, Snapchat is stealing people away from Instagram, so Facebook has to figure out how to get more people back on their network of connected apps, including Instagram, because Facebook's like that. Facebook is developing a new messaging app called Threads that is meant to promote constant, intimate sharing between users and their closest friends, according to The Verge. Threads, which is designed as a companion app to Instagram, invites users to automatically share their location, speed, and battery life with friends, not sure exactly why, along with more typical text, photo, and video messaging using Instagram's creative tools. The app, which is designed for sharing with your, quote, close friends list on Instagram, is now being tested internally at Facebook. When reached, Instagram declined to comment. You see, in May, Instagram ceased working on Direct, which was a standalone messaging app that had been developing since late 2017. At the time, executives said that beta testers were frustrated about having to switch between Instagram and the second app whenever they wanted to send a message, but the company has remained interested in building a new messaging experience nonetheless, and moved some people over from the Facebook Messenger team as part of broader consolidation between the parent company and its prize acquisition, and they're still trying to figure out how to get it on par to compete with Snapchat because they're apparently jealous of that. A messaging app built around your close friends might be a little bit more popular. That's what Snapchat already is today for a healthy portion of its users. Although keep in mind, Snapchat doesn't have multiple apps for you to chat with your friends and then chat with your friends' friends. You get kind of confused real quick. Reports have indicated that the average Snapchat user spends more time inside the app than the average Instagram user does. For Facebook and Instagram, which have long coveted Snapchat's strong engagement among younger users, Threads could represent another effort to chip away at their rivals' appeal. Now, screenshots reviewed by The Verge shows an app that's designed to promote constant, automatic sharing between users and the people on their close friends list on Instagram. Opt into automatic sharing, and Threads will regularly update your status, giving your friends a real-time view of information about your location, speed, and more. At the moment, Threads does not display your location real-time. Instead, it might say something like a friend is, quote, on the move. So in case you were worried about that, I guess they are at least considerate about it. You can also update your status manually, with statuses appearing in the main feed along with messages. It's the latest effort to automate status sharing among mobile phone sensors and one-tap status sharing. Now, the core of Threads appears to be messaging, and it looks very similar to the existing messaging product inside Instagram. Messages from your friends appear in a central feed, with a green dot indicating which of your friends are currently active. If your friend has posted a story recently, you can view that from inside Threads as well. Threads also has a camera, which you can use to capture photos and videos and send them to your close friends. Now, for those of you wondering, it's unclear when Threads might launch. Facebook might end development before shipping the app to the general public, as it did with Direct, but Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg said in March he sees private messaging as the future of the company and trying to figure out exactly what that means. Thread at least appears to be the latest effort for the company's vision to make that a reality, or at least representative. So, in the interim, another app, just what we need. And I think that sums up my thoughts on it. Did I miss anything? No? Okay. Moving right along to some gaming news. Did you know that over 1 million people right now are watching World of Warcraft Classic on Twitch? Yeah, it's true. For those of you wondering what we're looking at right now, we're looking at Asmongold with a whole group of... Man, this looks just like Classic. Wow. You're probably not able to see it at all because you're probably listening to us on a podcast. Head on over to youtube.com/TechNewsGadget to watch the video of today's show. Now, after 2 years of anticipation, WoW Classic finally live. Top streamers from every corner of Twitch are streaming it right now, resulting in an audience of over 1 million concurrent viewers in some seriously congested starter areas. Oh, this is like right back in the day. I should totally get Classic and jump right back in. I guarantee you I wouldn't have missed skipping a beat at all, because that's kind of where I left off, is in Classic stages. I'd hop right back in. Oh, I'd be like old times. I don't know. As of this writing, the Slavering Horde and Alliance fans topped out at 1.1 million people. It's a colossal number for a single game on Twitch. For reference, Fortnite has been recently pulling between 100 and 200,000 concurrent viewers at any given moment. Now, it's rare that even big esports events bring this kind of attention to a single game. Even more impressively, WoW Classic pulled in the majority of these viewers while streamers were waiting to be able to log in. For example, by the time he was able to join a server, popular WoW streamer Asmongold was already at more than 200,000 viewers. Other people like Soda Poppin' and Shroud, the latter of whom hasn't traditionally been much of a WoW streamer, have attracted similarly gargantuan gaggles of gawking spectators. Wow, that sentence right there was impressive. So too has top WoW Guild Method, which is hosting an event where various personalities and high-level players race to be the world's first players to complete, basically everything. So world's first here, world's first there, doing that all over again, just like Classic WoW. I guarantee you, I'm not quite certain, but I'm probably fairly certain that Tim the Tatman, if he hasn't already, will be streaming WoW Classic. He came from WoW, so he's not a Fortnite player, and it's not just that he knows Ninja, and Ninja brought him into popularity. Tim the Tatman's been streaming WoW for quite some time. That's how he started out his career on Twitch. But yeah, more like WoW Classic. Oh no, I guess there's some parts of it he doesn't like. Well, we won't play that video. Even individual streamers are racing to level up, and the reason for that is simple. They want to physically separate themselves from the rest of the pack. Servers, especially ones that popular streamers have joined, are absolutely slammed right now with a tangled body pile of players rolling Kamatari-like across the landscape and converging on quest givers and low-level enemies alike. It's actually quite comical to watch, but also frustrating since enemies are having a hard time spawning quickly enough to keep up with demand, and the game is hitching and lagging in great heaving bursts. And granted, this is not entirely streamers' fault. A lot of people have been waiting a long time to return to Vanilla WoW's bore-filled fields. Don't make me read this article any longer. I'm gonna want to go re-up my subscription and just play Classic. I mean, that was the meat and potatoes for me. That's really what got me started on to the online gaming MMO RPG. This is me talking, not the author here. Still, despite technological improvements that are no doubt keeping the servers from plummeting off the internet together, it's worth noting that the original World of Warcraft, and by extension, WoW Classic, was not designed with streamers in Discord and strictly regimented mega guilds in mind. These things, for the most part, didn't come until later on. Now, it'll actually be interesting seeing as how, it developed over that time, but now seeing how it affects streamers, 2004 revivals of delicate leveling ecosystem, not to mention if a relatively bare bones MMO can hold people's attention in the long run. But man, these are some pretty impressive numbers to just stack up. 1.1 million. When WoW first launched, its quest system was a revolutionary streamlining of the MMO formula, but much of the game's magic came from spontaneity in the absence of structured activity. Hours-long world PvP struggles, awkward encounters in the Barrens, factions trying to storm each other's home cities, blood plagues accidentally killing everybody, so on and so forth. But times have changed, and you can't just repeat something and have it feel spontaneous again. WoW Classic, much like WoW Vanilla, will live or die based on what people make of it. And in either place, here's what I think. It's going to be a good run. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And it'll probably do some good for some people who've been itching to just play some Classic for the longest time. Just hop in, play, have some fun with your friends, hang out, what we used to do back before we got to 2019. What did we do back then? I don't know, not really much different. I'd say the graphics got better though, that's about it. Yeah, the graphics, totally, playing it for the graphics. Moving on to some Destiny 2 news. Bungie says it will start removing some Destiny 2 seasonal content, and maybe that's a good thing. My personal preference before we get into this article is I feel like I've missed out on a lot. And really, I probably have. You see, I got the seasonal pass update last year, but I really haven't been able to play the seasonal content that I've really been wanting to play and level up into in terms of gear and everything else. You want to know why? Because I do this show, I have a full-time job, I have a business that I do on the side, I have a family to take care of, I have other games that I'd like to play. I don't have any time. I should probably have like 2 clones running around, and then I could just play video games all the time, and one of them can go off to work and the other one can do my other business, and then I could just worry about playing video games and hanging out with my family. But alas, technology is still behind on that aspect, and while you can clone sheep, you can't clone people just yet, so we're off a little bit. But in the final part of Destiny lead franchise developer Luke Smith's blog post, he announced that Bungie will start to remove some seasonal content over time. The goal is to create less activity bloat. After all, Bungie admitted it can't technically grow Destiny 2 forever. Something has to give. Now, normally, losing content and the ability to earn certain rewards can be very scary for players, but Bungie's decision to rotate content in and out of Destiny at different times could build a stronger, more active community. What do we know so far? Well, in the third installment of the Director's Cut blog post, he teased how seasons will work in Destiny 2's next year of content. This year will see events that last for 3 months and offer new rewards to chase, although at the end of that period, some of the activities will go away. For a time, the rewards will too, but he also acknowledged that playing Destiny is collecting all of the stuff, so in future seasons, the weapons and legendary armor associated with these seasonal activities will be added to other reward sites. Later on in his post, Smith cites 2 primary reasons for this change. The first being technical limitations. Destiny 2 is already big enough and it can't keep getting bigger. There's going to be too much bloat. By replacing activities instead of letting them sit in irrelevancy, the studio will reduce the technical technical requirements of new seasons and expansions. The studio also wants the world to feel like it's evolving and changing with each season. I guarantee you they picked up some notes from how World of Warcraft does stuff. Earlier, Smith describes wanting events to kick off like a story beat, resolve it, set up the next one all in a single season. To Bungie, that means shrugging off the old and embracing the new every 3 months. Now, what does that mean? Well, a more active world. Destiny 2 has a lot of different activities, each with their own reason to play and their own kind of rewards. But no matter how good an activity is, it gets kind of hard to stomach after 200 or 300 runs. For example, the Black Armory Forge from December 2018 is one of the quickest, most engaging activities Bungie's ever added to Destiny, but it came out a year ago. I personally still haven't played it, and it's starting to get old already. Theoretically, Bungie could rotate these activities out for the benefit of another. Removing options for play can in some cases be good. It keeps players more condensed, which increases the matchmaking pool for newer activities. The more player diversity in an activity, the higher chance for players to have a unique or memorable experience. A finite time limit on a new activity also creates a sense of urgency. While many casual players may be fine with earning a few weapons from an activity and waiting until it comes around again, hardcore Destiny fans won't be so relaxed. Instead of leaving an activity mid-season to do something else, players will have to commit to getting everything they can out of an activity before it goes away. They have a reason to keep going on, rather than dropping the season a few weeks in, promising to gather the loot next season. Now, there are some concerns. What exactly is Bungie referring to? What will leave each season, and how will it come back? Bungie may give players a chance to play something and then take it out of the limelight for something new, but there are still plenty of players who like going back to old activities after things have calmed down. Bungie can never appease its entire fan base, and that's true with any game, but players are still looking for more clarity on what the actual plan is. Perhaps the biggest question comes around how these activities will come back. All players have different timelines they can play on. Some people get a few hours a week, some have a couple hours every couple of months. Wanting a powerful weapon but being able to not play when it is available is seriously frustrating. Overall, the confusion around this new system centers on ignorance about Bungie's future plans. Some players have alternate solutions they'd like to see instead, so hopefully to listen out to that. In some cases, missing out on a piece of gear can promote a more varied and interesting landscape for players. Destiny has always been more about collection than gearing up. In other gear-based RPGs, you get a great piece of gear only to discard it an hour later for something better. Destiny asks you to collect everything, so you have the perfect tool for every job. Now, running into players who don't have the perfect tools in a modern Destiny 2 is frustrating. You can always ask someone why they don't have a well-rolled hammerhead, or how it's possible they don't have mountaintop yet, but removing those weapons' accessibility from the equation creates two benefits. The players who don't have them suddenly don't feel guilty. It broadens the game's meta, and suddenly boss fights aren't just a group of guardians using mountaintop to slam a boss into the dirt. The toolbox expands when some tools aren't in stock anymore. Players have more choice to play with what's available rather than what's the best. So I think it's just a variety, guys. That's all it's doing. Coming up with some variety and ways to re-energize Destiny 2 in a way. That's at least my thoughts, and hopefully I'll be able to play Black Armory. Still waiting to level up. Oh wait, I forgot. I have to log into the game still to do it. I haven't logged in months. Alright, now to our final article of today. For those of you wondering, if you're on the go, but you want to listen to the show, you can certainly do that. Head on over to latestintechnews.com, and there you get the options to subscribe in whatever app you want, and then you can listen on the go. Now, looking at our final article in the gaming news, Dying Light 2 is shaping up to be an astonishing open-world action game. And this game article comes to us from GamesRadar.com, and we got some photos to go along with it too. How can you feel anything but astonishment as you look upon what Techland is engineering here? There's this moment in the opening minutes of the new Dying Light 2 gameplay demo, which just dropped, that immediately sells the concept behind this monstrous creation, where player protagonist Aiden Caldwell opens up a door from the dimly lit confines of Frank's barn, steps out into the sprawling metropolis that is the city. Here, gazing out across the shattered high-rise structures of District 2, I'm met with the sickening feeling swelling in the pit of my stomach. I honestly couldn't tell you whether it's the vertigo kicking in right on time, or if it's your brain attempting to process a sense of awe on a scale that you're not yet properly able to harness. regardless of which of the two, do know and recognize in an instant that Dying Light 2 is operating to a scale and scope the likes of which have never been seen before in an action RPG. To that end, everything about Dying Light feels impossibly well realized. And listen, understand that the demo is running on a PC powerful enough to render the National Missile Defense System inert, but the impressiveness on display here extends far beyond the shimmering graphical and performance presentation on a full display from Techland. If it wasn't apparent when you're standing atop a rooftop, it's quite clear once you get yourself down to street level. Dying Light 2 makes you feel like little more than a loose thread in a large tapestry. As you look up and around you, all you see is warped steel and towering structures. It'll take you a second before you truly grasp that it can be scaled. That all of it can be scaled. Techland has doubled down on what made the original game so successful, doubling the amount of parkour mechanics available to you and improving the systems working behind them to ensure that spatial navigation, generating momentum, transitioning between sections of the environment is seamless as possible. It was only a decade ago we were praising Mirror's Edge for its expansive environments and thrilling sense of motion, and here's Dying Light 2 making all of EA's DICE's accomplishments seem small and unrefined by comparison. That only speaks to the mindset that Techland has approached Dying Light 2 with a desire to give the 17 million players that enjoyed the original game not more of the same, but beyond what they could ever have reasonably imagined a sequel would look like. Man, it's quite crazy. What Dying Light 2 does in this demo is a wonderful job of showcasing just how integral movement and momentum are to the series at its core. It isn't just a means to an end, but an expression. It's easy to become distracted by the wickedly gruesome combat, reactive AI, irresistibly absurd modified weapons, and a population of well-sculpted characters that live out across the city's 7 distinct districts, but you really should be focused on the parkour and the systems that enable it. It's where the quality of life improvements are best demonstrated and where the lessons Techland has learned since Dying Light launched in 2015 are best reflected. For addition, the return of the grappling hook and a paraglider are the most obvious additions to play, giving you a whole new suite of opportunities to navigate the monstrous spaces between skyscrapers, but they aren't the most notable. No, they're small enough that they're actually quite easy to miss. Physics-based pieces of the environment that react to your presence and momentum, opening up new running lines and closing off others entirely. The refined way in which you're able to chain movements between rope swings, slides, wall runs, and vaults, the way in which you can use enemies to break your fall or as springboards to new locations. When it comes to scaling the environment and crossing vast distances, Techland says, treat parkour the way you solve a broad puzzle. The studio hasn't said this explicitly, but it's made implicitly clear in what it has shown of the game so far. Essentially, have fun. Oh man, look at this. And there's more to come. There's more. Oh, there's an ad. I don't want to listen to the ad, but yeah. When Dying Light 2 launches in spring of 2020, if this new gameplay demo is going to go by at the very least, I don't think you might follow story threads, improve your parkour maneuvers, or even modify your weapons to do horrible things to anybody else that dares step or shamble into your path. You might be on street level, marveling at the size of the world that evolves around you. You might be staring up at buildings, wondering how best to reach the rooftops, fearful that, your stomach might lurch just a little bit too much at the mere thought of navigating the ascension. Dying Light 2 is a game that at least many is going to gladly get lost in. 2020 cannot come soon enough. Oh, I'm excited. Dying Light 2, I can't wait. Are you looking forward to this game? Let me know down in the comments if you're watching in today's YouTube video. Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. If this is anything that it's going to be hyped up to be, so long as they're doing everything right and it's not just all hype and no reality. If you could figure out a way to improve on Dying Light and make it better and go beyond and do it well, that's a game I'm going to be happy playing with for quite some time to come. That's all I got to say on that. And with that, that wraps up this episode of the latest in tech news. Thanks for tuning in, guys. New episodes every weekday. The latest in tech news can be found on every major platform, including Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Stitcher, Overcast, and more. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to let us know by clicking that like button and by leaving a comment if you're watching via YouTube. And if you're listening via the podcast, we'd appreciate a review out on Apple Podcasts or whatever app you're listening in. Also, double check that you are subscribed so that you don't miss the next episode. I'm your host, Taylor Merrick, and remember, for the latest in tech, gadget, and gaming news, visit TechNewsGadget.net. pretty much keep being awesome, guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.